Hello, I'm Natasha. Welcome back to my channel. So, as the West seems to be imploding with the attempted assassination against Donald Trump and the disastrous start of the Labour government's term here in the UK, I thought that it would be a good time to talk about the Russian economy. So, it was President Biden's aim to turn the ruble into rubble at the start of Russia's current military operation. However, the West have not been able to crush Russia's economy, and despite what Western media may say or not say, it is in fact doing very well. So, to put it bluntly, Russia's economy has not been ruined by the sanctions that have been placed upon it. According to the World Bank, Russia's economy is now the fourth largest economy in the world. The World Bank released its purchasing power parity based gross domestic product data for global economies. It compared the economic output of different economies in the form of the goods and services they produced, while also considering their standards of living. And it found that Russia actually overtook Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. So, in today's video, I want to analyse how well the Russian economy is doing by reviewing several key indicators. Firstly, I think that it is important to note that Russia has a low debt to GDP ratio. Public debt in Russia in 2022 was around 18.9% of GDP. We can compare this to many Western nations where debt is over 100% of GDP, and this seems comparatively very low. Obviously, this is a good thing for Russia. It needs to spend less money on servicing its debt and therefore has more funds to spend on other parts of its economy. It therefore has a stable baseline from which to grow its economy. So, if we firstly consider GDP, the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, expects Russia's economy to grow 3.2% this year. This is significantly more than the UK, France, and Germany. Russia has managed to sell its oil and gas to China and India, who incidentally have thrown in crude oil from other countries during the refining process and legally exported it to the US and the UK. So the West are receiving Russian exports. They are just paying a higher price for it, and India and China are making a profit out of this. We really have to consider who are the stupid ones here. The West are still receiving Russian exports, they are just paying more for them. Alongside the rise in GDP, Russia's unemployment rate has dropped to a record low of 2.6% in April, and real wages have soared. In fact, real wages over the past 6 years in Russia have increased by 33.2%. Now, labour shortages have had an effect on inflation, and the Bank of Russia have held interest rates at 16% and acknowledged that inflation may not fall below their 4% target. Although it does appear that inflation in Russia is driven by demand rather than cost, as elsewhere in Europe. The Bank of Russia has said that consumer activity remains high amid a significant increase in households' income and positive consumer sentiment. According to companies surveyed in Russia, investment demand remains high. So, overall, it's not looking like a country which is economically on its knees, so to speak. Actually, it looks as though the economy is doing far better than most Western economies at the moment. Even politically speaking, the country has maintained stability, with President Putin maintaining his position in the country. If we compare this to the UK, where we have had Boris Johnson, then Liz Truss, then Rishi Sunak, and now Keir Starmer in power since the start of Russia's current military operation. You could even dare to think that Russia is more politically stable than the UK. I do think that Europe's relationship with Russia, or lack thereof, needs urgent consideration, especially in the light of the statements made by James Vance, who is Donald Trump's vice president. He has called for negotiations with Russia and for Europe to focus on its own security. Given the poor economic shape and lack of military capability of Europe, the only way to guarantee European security, in my opinion, is to start negotiating with Russia.